Amanda stood by the window, absently stirring her long cold tea. Outside, large snowflakes swirled slowly, blanketing the city in white. The thermometer showed -25, and the few pedestrians, wrapping themselves in scarves and burying their noses in their collars, hurriedly dashed from one apartment building entrance to another. The clock in the living room struck 10 in the evening, but Christopher still wasn't home. Though she had grown accustomed to his late returns, it had become routine, like cold dinners reheated in the microwave and lonely evenings in front of the TV. 5 years ago, everything was completely different. They had met in a cozy coffee shop on Main Street, where Christopher worked as a barista and served her favorite caramel latte every morning. She would make a 20-minute detour just to drink his coffee. He was so attentive. He always remembered her order, drew funny patterns in the foam, and would sneak a cookie or a candy next to her cup. One day, instead of the usual heart on her latte, she saw a phone number written in cinnamon. "Forgive my boldness," Christopher had smiled then, rubbing his neck, slightly embarrassed, "but I've been mustering the courage for a month to ask you out somewhere." It felt like the beginning of a romantic movie. Beautiful courtship, bouquets of wildflowers he brought to her office, long walks along the riverfront where they talked about everything, going to the movies together, and cozy evenings in tiny cafes. Christopher turned out to be not just handsome, but also an intelligent conversationalist. Well-read, with a good sense of humor, and a great listener. He talked about his plans to open his own coffee shop, burning with ideas and dreams, infecting her with his enthusiasm. He proposed 8 months after they met, on the roof of her building, which he had somehow managed to get access to, arranging a romantic, candlelit dinner. Amanda remembered every detail of that evening, the twinkling of the fairy lights he had decorated the area with, the scent of her favorite lilies, the tremor in his voice as he got down on one knee. Of course, she said yes. After the wedding, they moved into her apartment, a small but cozy 2-bedroom on the outskirts of the city, inherited from her grandmother. Amanda was so happy back then that she didn't even mention a prenup, although her mother had persistently advised her to think about it. "Mum, what prenup? We love each other," she would brush off her mother's warnings. The first year was like a fairy tale. They fixed up their little nest together, went to flea markets on weekends looking for vintage furniture to restore, started joint culinary experiments in the tiny kitchen, and made plans for the future. Christopher even started saving money for his coffee shop, and Amanda supported his dream, setting aside part of her salary for their shared fund. The changes began so gradually that she couldn't even pinpoint when things started going wrong. Maybe it was when Christopher lost his job at the coffee shop after the change of ownership, or when he got a job as a manager at his friend's construction company for a more stable salary. He started coming home later than usual more often, blaming his workload. Then he began skipping their traditional Sunday walks in the park, sometimes hungover after a work party, other times due to an urgent project. The dream of his own coffee shop gradually dissolved into endless excuses. "Now is not the time. The market is oversaturated. We need to save more." The money from their shared stash quietly slipped away on a new phone for him, because a manager's status demands nice suits on some business trainings. Amanda didn't object. She thought she just needed to support her husband through a tough period. But the problem wasn't just the money. Christopher seemed to be turning into a different person, more cynical, indifferent, selfish. He stopped helping around the house, leaving dirty dishes in the sink and socks scattered all over the apartment. He reacted to Amanda's timid remarks with increasing irritation. "What are you starting now? I had a hard day. You don't work yourself to the bone like I do." She tried to save their marriage, suggested seeing a marriage counselor, tried to arrange a romantic dinner, even signed up for cooking classes to please him with new dishes. But Christopher just brushed her off. "We don't have money for a counselor. I'm not hungry. I ate with colleagues. Why all these complications? We're fine as is." The front door slammed, interrupting her grim thoughts. Shuffling feet were heard in the hallway, followed by the familiar clatter of keys falling on the console table. Amanda winced at the sharp smell of cigarettes that burst into the apartment. With the frosty air. "You're here? Is dinner ready?" Christopher's voice sounded displeased and slightly slurred. He must have stopped for a couple of beers with colleagues again. Amanda took a deep breath, gathering her strength. Today, everything had to be decided. She couldn't live like this anymore, in endless anticipation of changes that would never come. The last straw was yesterday's conversation with his mother. Louise Patterson, apparently tired of her daughter-in-law's endless complaints about her son, had casually mentioned seeing Christopher at a restaurant with some young blonde, and this was after he said he was held up at an important meeting. "We need to talk," Amanda said quietly but firmly, entering the hallway. Christopher was leaning against the wall, trying to pull off his shoe without untying the laces. He smelled of cigarettes, beer, and someone else's perfume. When he looked up, she noticed lipstick stains on his shirt collar. "About what?" "I'm tired." "Let's talk tomorrow," he grumbled, finally managing with his shoe and leaving it in the middle of the hallway. "No, Chris, today. I'm filing for divorce." A heavy silence hung in the hallway. Christopher slowly straightened up. His face took on that characteristic expression of feigned bewilderment that appeared every time he tried to talk his way out of a difficult situation. "What nonsense? Why all of a sudden?" He tried to smirk, but it came out unnatural. His gaze darted to the lipstick on his collar, and he mechanically adjusted his shirt. "Do you really want to know?" Amanda felt a wave of bitterness, accumulated over years, rising inside her. "Maybe we start with where you were today. And don't tell me about a meeting." "I called the office. You haven't been there since lunch." Christopher walked past her into the kitchen and took a bottle of water from the fridge. His feigned calm always got on her nerves, as if she was some hysterical woman making a mountain out of a molehill. "Are you spying on me now?" He feigned indignation, plopping down on a chair. "I'm out there, by the way, earning money, meeting with clients, building connections." "It's business, baby. You don't understand any of this." "Really? And do these connections leave lipstick on your shirt?" Amanda walked over to the table and placed her phone in front of him with an open photo. In the picture, taken by one of their mutual acquaintances, Christopher was hugging a young blonde in a short red dress. "Is this business too?" He glanced at the photo and shrugged. "So what? Just a colleague. Are you going to have a fit over every photo now?" "No, Chris, no fits, just divorce." Her voice sounded surprisingly calm. "I've already consulted a lawyer. I'm filing the papers tomorrow." Something in her tone made him wary. He was used to a different Amanda, the one who turned a blind eye to his antics, the one who tried to fix everything, the one who cried into her pillow at night but kept enduring. This new Amanda with a straight back and a resolute gaze was unfamiliar to him. "Are you serious?" He leaned forward, looking her directly in the eyes for the first time that evening. "And where will you go? How will you live?" "I'm not going anywhere. This is my apartment. I got it from my grandmother before our marriage. It's not subject to division in a divorce." Christopher froze, slowly putting the bottle on the table. A whole range of emotions flashed across his face, from disbelief to rage. "What do you mean yours? What about me? I've been slaving away for 5 years to provide for our family. I put all my energy into this marriage." Amanda gave a bitter laugh. "Really? And I thought all your energy went to bar hopping and meetings with young colleagues. By the way, about investments. Maybe you can tell me what happened to the money we were saving for your coffee shop. The very same money I saved from my salary for 6 months." "Go to hell." He stood up sharply, knocking over the chair. "Think you're so smart? Thought you'd throw me out on the street? It won't work." "It will, Chris. By law, it will. I have the apartment documents, witnesses to your affairs. I have—" She didn't get to finish. Christopher swept the dishes off the table with one motion. Cups shattered, fragments covering the kitchen floor. "You bitch!" He advanced on her, clenching his fists. "So you planned it all? Thought of everything?" Amanda retreated towards the door, fumbling for her phone in her pocket. She had never seen such rage in his eyes before. "Don't come near me," she warned, trying to keep her voice from trembling. "I'll call the police." "The police?" He burst out laughing, but the laugh sounded more like a growl. "You think they'll help you? Think you're so clever? Let's go." He grabbed her arm with such force that the phone fell out and hit the floor with a dull thud. Amanda tried to break free, but Christopher was already dragging her towards the exit. "Where?" "Let me go." "We need to talk," he hissed through clenched teeth, pulling on his jacket with his free hand. "As a family. I'm not going anywhere with you. Let go." But he had already dragged her out onto the stairwell, not even letting her put on a coat. In her thin sweater, Amanda immediately froze to the bone. Christopher practically dragged her down the stairs to the car parked by the entrance. "Get in," he barked, yanking the door open. "No!" "Help!" Amanda screamed. But at this late hour, the courtyard was deserted. The few lit windows looked indifferently at the scene. Christopher forcefully shoved her into the passenger seat, slammed the door, and quickly walked around the car. A few seconds later, the engine roared to life and the car sped off, carrying them into the frosty night. "Where are you taking me?" "Stop." Amanda frantically pulled at the door handle, but it was locked. "Shut up." He sharply turned the wheel onto a deserted highway. "We'll talk differently now. Thought you were so smart? Thought you had it all figured out?" The car raced along the snow-covered highway. The speedometer showed 120 kilometers per hour. Occasional streetlights flashed by outside. Snowflakes pelted the windshield. Amanda realized with horror that they had already left the city, and there was no one around. The car weaved along the snowy road, swerving on the turns. Christopher drove sharply, carelessly, hardly slowing down. His hands, gripping the wheel, were white with tension, and a terrible grimace of rage was frozen on his face. Amanda had never seen him like this. It seemed like a complete stranger was before her. "Chris, please, stop the car." She tried to speak calmly, though her heart was pounding in her throat. "Let's just talk." "Talk?" He made a strange sound, like a barking laugh. "And why do you suddenly want to talk? A minute ago, you were so brave. Divorce, police, apartment documents." He took the next turn, especially sharply, throwing Amanda against the door. She painfully hit her shoulder and involuntarily cried out. It was unbearably cold in her thin sweater. The car's heater was barely working, and a chill came from the windows. "Do you know how much I put into that apartment?" Christopher continued, ignoring her shivering. "Who did the renovation?" "Me. Who picked out and hauled the furniture?" "Me too. And now you want to take everything for yourself." "The renovation?" Amanda felt a wave of bitterness and resentment rising inside her. "You mean the renovation we did together? With my money, by the way. And the furniture, the very same we bought with my bonus." "Shut up." He hit the steering wheel so hard the car swerved. "You don't understand anything. Do you think it was easy living with someone like you for 5 years? Always dissatisfied, always with complaints." Dark silhouettes of trees flashed outside, rare streetlights barely illuminated the road, and the snowfall was getting heavier. The speedometer still showed over 100. "At least slow down," Amanda pleaded, gripping the handle above the door. "You'll kill us." "Do you even care? You've already decided everything, divorce, a new life." He turned to her, taking his eyes off the road. "Do you think anyone else will want a bitch like you?" "Watch the road," she screamed, noticing the car starting to drift into the oncoming lane. Christopher swore and yanked the wheel. The car skidded, sliding on the slippery road. Somehow they managed to avoid hitting the guardrail. But this maneuver seemed to anger Christopher even more. "All you women are the same," he yelled, beating his hands on the steering wheel. "First you act all holy, then you show your true face. Thought I didn't notice how you've been preparing these last months, gathering documents, consulting with lawyers. What else was I supposed to do?" Amanda was no longer holding back her tears. "You turned our life into hell. You constantly lie, cheat, drink away money. I endured it for 5 years, hoped you'd come to your senses, that everything would get better. Oh, you." He raised his hand but didn't hit her, grabbing the wheel again at the last moment. "So it's all my fault? And the fact that you didn't want to have kids, is that normal? That you were always disappearing at work? That's nothing?" "I didn't want kids," she choked on indignation. "You were the one who always said it wasn't the time, that we had no money, that we needed to wait. And work? If I hadn't worked, we'd have been bankrupt long ago with your benders." Christopher hit the steering wheel again and suddenly slammed on. The brakes. The car skidded, spinning on the slippery road. Amanda was thrown forward. The seatbelt dug painfully into her shoulder. When the car finally stopped, they were somewhere on the shoulder in the middle of a dark forest. "Get out," he hissed through his teeth. "What? Get out," I said. He leaned over her and yanked the passenger door open. Frosty air burst into the cabin. "Are you crazy? It's -25 out here. Did you think you could just throw me out of the apartment like that?" His eyes were completely insane. "Did you think I'd let some whore rob me?" He grabbed her by the shoulders and literally pushed her out of the car. Amanda lost her balance and fell into a snowbank. The prickly snow instantly seeped under her sweater, burning her skin with cold. "Chris, don't." She tried to get up but slipped on the packed snow. "You can't do this." "I can." He slammed the door and hit the gas. "Now you'll understand what it's like to be left with nothing." The car sped off, showering Amanda with a cloud of snow. The red taillights quickly dissolved into the blizzard, leaving her alone in the middle of the snow-covered highway. There was pitch darkness all around, only occasional streetlights flickered dimly in the distance, and the wind howled in the roadside trees. Amanda struggled to her feet. Her house slippers were soaked through. The thin sweater offered no protection against the piercing wind. Her phone was left at home in her pocket. Not a penny of money. She had no idea where she was. Christopher had been driving for about 40 minutes, maybe an hour, constantly winding along some secondary roads. The wind was picking up, the snowfall turning into a real blizzard. Amanda shivered, hugging her shoulders, and slowly trudged along the road. She could barely feel her legs. Her frozen fingers felt wooden. She tried to move faster to warm up, but the slippery road and wet shoes made every step an ordeal. "Help!" she cried into the darkness, but the wind caught and carried her voice away. "Anyone?" In the distance, she heard the rumble of an engine. Amanda froze, peering into the darkness. Maybe Christopher had come to his senses and returned for her. But no, the sound was coming from the opposite direction. Through the snowy veil, the lights of an approaching car appeared. Amanda ran out into the middle of the road, waving her arms. "Stop! Please, help!" The car began to slow down, and a spark of hope ignited in Amanda. But at the last moment, the driver, apparently frightened by the strange figure on the road, hit the gas and sped past, showering her with snow dust and exhaust fumes. Her strength was failing her, her lips were blue from the cold, her fingers wouldn't straighten. Every breath of frosty air caused pain in her chest. Amanda understood, if she didn't find help within the next few minutes, she would simply freeze to death here on the deserted highway. Time stretched into eternity. Amanda stumbled along the roadside, tripping and falling into snowdrifts. Her legs no longer obeyed. She could barely feel her toes. Snow filled her soaked slippers. Her clothes were soaked through with icy dampness. Every gust of wind pierced her to the bone, making her whole body shudder from the cold. In the distance, headlights appeared again. Amanda didn't even try to step onto the road. The last 3 cars had driven past, ignoring her desperate attempts to stop them. The drivers probably mistook the lone woman on the night highway for a setup by bandits or a madwoman. But this car began to slow down on its own. An old Neva slowly pulled over onto the shoulder about 20 meters ahead. Amanda froze, not knowing whether to run towards it or, conversely, hide in the woods. In her condition, anyone could be more dangerous than the frost. A woman in a puffer jacket jumped out of the car and quickly walked towards her. "Oh my God, you're completely frozen." The stranger was unzipping her jacket as she walked. "Megan, get her into the car. Get the blanket and tea ready." Only then did Amanda notice that another woman was sitting in the Neva. She was already rummaging in a large bag on the back seat, pulling something out. I quote. Amanda tried to say something, but her lips wouldn't obey. Her knees buckled and she began to sink into the snow. "Hey, don't fall." The woman caught her, throwing her own puffer jacket over her. "I'm Sophie. My sister and I are coming back from our country house. Let's get you warm, then you can tell us everything." Sophie almost carried Amanda to the car. Her legs had completely given out. Megan had already cleared the back seats and was holding a thermos ready. "My God, she's only in slippers," Megan gasped, helping her sister get Amanda into the car. "In this frost? Sophie, I think I have spare socks in my bag." They wrapped Amanda in a blanket, pulled off her wet slippers, and rubbed her icy feet with woolen socks. Megan poured hot tea with lemon and honey into the thermos lid. "Drink small sips," she said, supporting Amanda's trembling hands. We'll turn the heater on full blast. You'll warm up soon. Warmth gradually returned to her body, and with it came a terrible fatigue. Amanda felt herself starting to shake, whether from the stress she'd endured or from the hypothermia. So now tell us what happened. Sophie turned from the front seat. Who left you here? Your husband? Amanda forced her lips apart with difficulty. The hot tea helped a bit, but it was still hard to speak. We had a fight. I said I was filing for divorce. And he threw you out of the car. Megan's eyes widened in horror. In this frost? In your house clothes? Amanda nodded, feeling tears rolling down her cheeks. Bastard, Sophie spat. Sorry, but there's no other word for it. Where do you live? Let's take you home. No. Amanda recoiled in fear. Not home. He might come back. The sisters exchanged glances. All right, listen, Megan said decisively. We live not far from here, in a town. I have a 3-bedroom apartment. The kids are at their grandma's. You'll come to us, pull yourself together, and then we'll decide what to do next. I can't impose on you. Don't even argue. Sophie was already starting the car. Do you think we're going to let you back out in the cold? We need to go to the hospital first, Megan felt Amanda's forehead. You have a fever, I think. And your toes need to be checked by a doctor. God forbid you have frostbite. The next few hours blurred into a feverish kaleidoscope for Amanda. The emergency room of the district hospital. A concerned female doctor shaking her head. Another half hour in the cold, and it could have ended very badly. An antibiotic injection, treatment for her frostbitten toes. Somewhere between procedures, she heard Sophie talking on the phone. Hey Dan, remember you said your friend works in the police? There's a situation here. Then there was a drive through the dark streets of the town. Megan's cozy apartment, smelling of cinnamon and vanilla. She turned out to be a pastry chef and baked cakes to order. Hot soup that spread blissful warmth through her body. A soft bed in the guest room. Rest, Megan adjusted the blanket. We'll figure everything out in the morning. I put a sleeping pill in your tea, don't worry, it's by prescription. You need to sleep. Falling asleep, Amanda heard the sisters talking quietly in the hallway. We need to help her write a statement, Sophie was saying. My friend works at a women's aid center. She'll explain how to do it right. Let her recover first, Megan replied. Did you see the state she's in? He almost killed her. Bastard, Sophie spat again. You know, I called my local precinct officer. He said this could be an attempted murder charge, throwing someone out in that cold without clothes on a highway. Their voices grew quieter, dissolving into the saving darkness. For the first time in many hours, Amanda felt safe. Her last coherent thought was surprise. How strange that help came from complete strangers, while the person closest to her had tried to kill her. She had a strange dream, as if she was standing on that snowy highway again. But now it wasn't dark around, but a bright sunny day. And the road led not to nowhere, but to the horizon where a new sun was rising. In the dream, she knew for sure. This road led to a new life. She just needed to gather her courage and take the first step. Amanda woke up to the sounds of bustle in the kitchen and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. A grey winter dawn was breaking outside. The events of last evening came over her in a heavy wave, but now they didn't bring that paralyzing hopelessness. There was a quiet knock on the door. Come in. Her voice was still hoarse, but more obedient. Megan peeked into the room with a tray in her hands. How are you feeling? I brought breakfast, and there's news. Sophie has already gotten everyone up early. People from the Women's Aid Center are coming. A lawyer will be there. And the precinct officer called. He's waiting for you to give a statement. Amanda sat up in bed, adjusting the borrowed pajamas. Her body ached, her throat was scratchy, but her mind was surprisingly clear. Thank you. She looked at Megan with tears of gratitude. You saved me. I don't know how. Don't even start. Megan waved her hand. Anyone would have done the same. Better tell me, what are you planning to do next? Amanda thought for a moment. For the first time in a long time, she felt not like a victim of circumstances, but like a person who could make decisions. I will act, she said firmly. File a police report, divorce, a restraining order. I won't let him dictate my life anymore. That's the right way. Megan smiled, and we'll help however we can. By the way, Sophie already arranged things with our lawyer friend. He'll take your case. Says it's crystal clear. You could even press criminal charges. At that moment, a cell phone rang in the hallway and they heard Sophie's voice. Yes, Dan? What's up? Seriously? Right in the bar? Serves him right. Sophie burst into the room, waving her phone. They got him. Can you believe it? That idiot went to a bar after everything he did. Straight to his usual dive. Dan says he was telling everyone there how he taught his disobedient wife a lesson. Amanda felt everything clench inside. Even after what happened, Christopher didn't realize he had committed a crime. For him, it was just about teaching his wife a lesson. And what happens now? She mechanically pulled the blanket higher as if trying to protect herself from reality. Dan said he's been detained for 48 hours. Sophie sat on the edge of the bed. And there are already witnesses. The bartender, the security guard. He was bragging there, telling in detail how he threw you out of the car. Drunken idiot. Now it will all go in the report. Megan put the breakfast tray on the bedside table. Eat, you'll need your strength. The precinct officer is coming in an hour to take your statement, and then the lawyer from the Women's Aid Center. They already know everything. They're involved. Amanda looked at the plate of steaming oatmeal, the fresh toast with jam, the cup of aromatic coffee. Such an ordinary domestic scene. It seemed incredible that just 12 hours ago she was freezing on a deserted highway, not knowing if she would live to see the morning. What if he backs out? She stumbled but managed to say, he's probably sobered up by now. He'll start making excuses. He won't get out, Sophie said firmly. First, attempted murder is no joke. Second, he was driving drunk. That's a second report. Third, he caused a scene in the bar when they came to arrest him. Resisting arrest. He's piled up charges against himself. The doorbell rang. Megan looked out into the hallway. Oh, it's the precinct officer, and with him, oh my God, Amanda, your mum is here. Mom? Amanda blinked in confusion. But how? That was me, Sophie admitted. Found your address in the database, called the neighbors, they gave me your mum's number. Sorry for doing it without asking, but I thought you needed support right now. Helen Victor, a petite, energetic woman with a worried face, literally flew into the room. Sweetheart, she rushed to the bed, hugging Amanda. I was going out of my mind. The neighbor called, said there was shouting. Then Christopher dragged you off somewhere by force, and your phone wasn't answering. Silence in the apartment. The precinct officer entered behind her, a young man in uniform with a folder of documents under his arm. Hello, I'm Senior Lieutenant Sullivan, he introduced himself. I've been briefed on the situation. We'll take your statement now, then go to the station, where an investigator will join us. But first, we need the medical examination report from the hospital. Do you have it with you? Megan took a folder from the closet. Here, all the documents, a certificate of injuries, a conclusion on hypothermia, photos of the frostbite. I copied everything. The originals are here. The next hour passed in a blur. Amanda gave her statement, signed papers, answered endless questions from the investigator who arrived after the precinct officer. Her mother sat nearby, tightly squeezing her hand, while the sisters bustled about, offering water or sedatives. So that's it. The investigator closed the folder. It's a serious charge. Attempted murder, plus driving under the influence, plus resisting arrest. We're going to the station now to formalize everything, and then I'll immediately send the documents to court for an arrest warrant. An arrest? Amanda shuddered. Did you think he'd get away with it? The investigator looked at her intently. He essentially tried to kill you. In that cold, without outer clothing, in a deserted place. It's like putting a gun to your head, if it weren't for a lucky chance. It wasn't chance, Sophie intervened. It was fate. Megan and I usually take a different road back from the dacha, but yesterday we decided to take a detour. I forgot I promised a neighbor I'd bring her some seedlings. At that moment, the investigator's phone rang. After listening to the caller, he frowned. Okay, news. Your husband is causing a commotion in the cell, demanding a lawyer. And it seems he's starting to go through withdrawal. They called a doctor. Withdrawal. Helen Victor looked at her daughter in surprise. Amanda, is he? I didn't know. Amanda shook her head. I mean, I noticed he was jumpy lately, but I thought it was work stress. Work stress? The investigator snorted. We already have a report from the narcology department. A whole cocktail, alcohol and cocaine. Looks like he's been on it for a while. And your shared money probably went there too. Amanda covered her face with her hands. How could she have been so blind? All the signs were there: sudden mood swings, money problems, nighttime absences. Sweetheart, her mother stroked her back. Don't blame yourself. You just loved him and believed in the best. He's the one to blame. He betrayed your love and trust. The doorbell rang again. This time, it was the woman lawyer from the aid center, an energetic middle-aged lady with an attentive gaze. Right, I'm Angela Mitchell. She immediately got down to business. I'm already familiar with the situation. Right now we're doing 3 things. First, filing for divorce. Second, obtaining a restraining order so he can't approach you. Third, preparing a civil lawsuit for moral damages. Is that necessary? Amanda sighed. Maybe just get a divorce. Absolutely, the lawyer cut her off. Such people must be held accountable for their actions. And it's not just about you. If we don't stop him now, he could ruin someone else's life. She's right, Sophie supported her. You have no idea how many women suffer because they're afraid to report their abusive husbands. Your case could set an example for others. The investigator looked at his watch. We need to go to the station. The report is ready, just needs to be signed officially. Then we go to court. There's a duty judge today. He'll consider the petition for arrest. I'm coming with you. Helen Victor stood up resolutely. And don't argue, Amanda. I'm not letting you go anywhere alone anymore. We're coming too, declared Megan. You never know what might be needed. And we need to get your things from the apartment, added Sophie, while he's under arrest. Amanda looked at these people, family and strangers who had already become close. Each of them was ready to help, support, protect. And just yesterday, she had felt so alone. Thank you, she said, barely holding back tears. Thank you all. Don't mention it, Megan smiled. You know, my friend recently got out of a toxic relationship. She says, the scariest thing is to take the first step. But then, when you realize you're not alone, that there are people ready to help, it gets easier. And my sister went through something similar, the lawyer nodded. Now she has a new life, a good job, a loving husband. Everything will work out, you'll see. Amanda got out of bed. Her legs still hurt from the frostbite, her throat was scratchy, but a new strength had appeared inside her. She remembered her dream about the road leading to the rising sun. Let's go, she said firmly. I'm ready. The district police station met them with echoing corridors and the smell of institutional furniture. Amanda walked, leaning on her mother's arm. Every step sent pain through her frostbitten feet. Sophie and Megan followed behind, carrying a bag with documents and warm clothes. This way, the investigator opened the door to an office. Have a seat. We'll sort out all the formalities now and then go to the judge. Before they could settle on the hard chairs, noise erupted in the hallway. Shouts, the sound of running feet, the noise of falling furniture. I demand a lawyer. You have no right. Christopher's voice, hoarse and angry, burst into the office. This is all her doing. She set it all up on purpose. Amanda shuddered and shrank into her chair. Helen Victor tightened her grip on her daughter's hand. Easy, the investigator stood up. I'll handle this. He went out, closing the door behind him. The noise in the hallway intensified. Where is she? I know she's here, Christopher was yelling. Amanda, come out, you bitch. This is all your fault. Quiet. The investigator's authoritative voice rang out. One more sound, and you'll add disorderly conduct in a police station to resisting arrest. What resisting? I just want to talk to my wife. She's my wife. She was your wife. The precinct officer already told you that. Now she's the victim in an attempted murder case. So no conversations. There was a scuffle, then the sound of a blow and someone's cry. That's it. File assault on a police officer, the investigator ordered. And call a doctor. Let them give him a sedative. He can't be taken to court in this state. The noise gradually subsided. Apparently Christopher had been taken away. A few. Minutes later the investigator returned, rubbing his jaw. Sorry for that spectacle. He's clearly going through drug withdrawal plus a hangover. They've already called a public defender for him. In the meantime, let's continue with the paperwork. The next hour passed in signing papers. Amanda retold the events of last evening again and again, answered clarifying questions, signed protocols. The lawyer carefully checked every document, sometimes demanding additions or corrections. Right, now to the judge, the investigator gathered the papers. There's information that his lawyer will request house arrest. Says it's his first offense, has a steady job. Oh no, Helen Victor was outraged. He'll go straight to my daughter first thing. He won't get to her, the lawyer reassured them. We have enough grounds for arrest. A serious crime, an attempt to pressure the victim, resisting arrest, assaulting a police officer. And the medical examination results aren't in his favor. Alcohol, drugs. At the courthouse, they were expected. The duty judge, an older man with a tired face, quickly scanned the documents. Right, clear enough. He looked at Amanda over his glasses. Are you ready to testify? She nodded, though everything was trembling inside. Christopher was brought into the room in handcuffs, escorted by 2 police officers. He looked terrible, disheveled, unshaven, with a mad glint in his eyes. Seeing Amanda, he lunged forward. Honey, this is some misunderstanding. I didn't mean to. I just lost my temper. Defendant, maintain order, the judge warned sternly, or I will remove you from the courtroom. The hearing lasted about an hour. Amanda testified, trying not to look at her husband. The investigator presented the evidence, medical documents, examination protocols, witness statements from the bar. Christopher's public defender tried to convince the court to limit itself to house arrest, but without much enthusiasm. Apparently, he understood the futility of this endeavor. All rise. The court is in session, the secretary announced. The judge read the ruling. Considering the severity of the crime committed, attempts to exert pressure on the victim, resisting arrest, and assaulting a police officer, the court rules to remand the suspect into custody for a period of 2 months. No, Christopher yelled, you can't. Amanda, tell them you love me. Remove the defendant, the judge ordered. As Christopher was being led out, he continued to shout, this is all you. You set it all up. Think you're so smart? I'll get to you. Hear me? I'll get to you. Amanda sat clutching her mother's hand. Only now, looking at this angry, embittered stranger, did she truly realize how blind she had been all these years. How could she have loved him? How could she have believed he would change? Don't be afraid, Sophie whispered to her. He won't touch you anymore. We won't allow it. Leaving the courthouse, they stopped on the steps. A light snow was falling, but after yesterday's blizzard, it seemed almost gentle. Well, home now? Asked Helen Victor. We need to gather your things, documents. I don't want to go back there, Amanda shivered. Not today. Come to my place, Megan suggested. Rest, pull yourself together. And tomorrow we'll all go to your apartment together and change the locks, added Sophie. I know a locksmith. He'll do it quickly. The lawyer handed Amanda a business card. Tomorrow at 10, I expect you at the office. We'll prepare the divorce papers and the lawsuit for moral damages. And one more thing, she hesitated but continued. I understand it's hard for you right now, but think about seeing a psychologist. We have a good specialist at the center. She works with women who have experienced domestic violence. The first consultation is free. I'll think about it, Amanda nodded. On the way to Megan's house, they stopped at a pharmacy for medicine and a store for groceries. Sophie told stories all the way about women who managed to start new lives after toxic relationships. Helen Victor made plans for rearranging the apartment. It's high time for a renovation, to change these awful wallpapers. And Amanda looked out the window at the snowy city and thought about how strangely life works. Sometimes you have to go through the worst to understand. You are not alone. To find the strength to start all over again. To finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, a message from an unknown number. This is Investigator Andrews. This is my personal email. If there are any threats or strange calls, write immediately. We won't let anyone hurt you. The next morning began with the smell of fresh baking. Megan, as usual, got up early to prepare cakes for orders. Amanda came out to the kitchen, still feeling weak in her legs. The doctor had warned that the effects of frostbite would bother her for a few more days. Oh, you're up already. Megan was wiping her hands on her flour-dusted apron. How did you sleep? Thanks. Well, Amanda sat down at the table, didn't even have nightmares. The sleeping pill must have helped. That's good. Megan set a cup of coffee and a plate of still warm croissants in front of her. Sophie will be here soon with the locksmith to change the locks, and then we'll all go to your apartment together. Amanda stirred her coffee thoughtfully. You know, I lived there for 7 years. 3 years alone and 4 with Christopher, and now I'm afraid to go back. It will pass. Megan sat down next to her. The main thing is to rearrange things there, change something, so it doesn't feel like everything is the same as before. The doorbell rang. Sophie had arrived with the locksmith and Helen Victor. Her mother immediately rushed to hug her daughter. How are you, dear? I didn't sleep a wink all night, kept thinking. I'm okay, Mom, Amanda smiled weakly. Really okay. I just need time. On the way to the apartment, Sophie shared the news. I talked to Dan this morning. He was on duty at the detention center. Says Christopher caused a commotion all night, demanded to call his lawyer, and by morning they took him to the infirmary. Serious withdrawal started. The doctor said he's probably been on cocaine for a long time. Amanda was silent. Now that the initial shock had passed, she began to remember many little things she had previously turned a blind eye to. His sudden mood swings, constant money problems, nighttime absences for work. How could she have been so blind? The precinct officer was waiting for them near the entrance. Good morning. I've spoken with the neighbors. Many heard the shouting that evening, saw him forcing you into the car. Everyone is ready to testify. Climbing the stairs, Amanda felt her heart pounding. It seemed that now she would open the door and see Christopher, angry, with a face contorted with rage. But the apartment was quiet and empty. Only traces of yesterday's fight reminded her of what had happened. An overturned chair in the kitchen, fragments of broken dishes, scattered things in the hallway. All right, let's get organized, Sophie commanded. First, change the locks, then clean up, then sort through the things. The locksmith quickly and deftly changed the locks on the front door. Now Amanda had new keys, a symbol of her new free life. Helen Victor took on the kitchen, sweeping up fragments, washing the floor, arranging the surviving dishes. Megan and her sister helped Amanda sort through Christopher's things. My God, how much junk he has! Sophie was indignant, pulling another box out of the closet, and also expensive. Suits, watches, and he said there was no money. In one of the dresser drawers, they found a small bag with white powder. The precinct officer immediately called in experts. This is another charge for possession. Looks like the case will be more serious than we thought. Sorting through her husband's things, Amanda seemed to relive their life together. Here were wedding photos. They looked so happy, smiling. Here were movie tickets from their first date, a receipt from the jewelry store where he bought her ring. Don't, her mother gently took the album from her. You need to let go of the past. By lunchtime, they had filled several boxes with Christopher's things. The precinct officer offered to take them to the storage room at the station. Let them stay there until the trial. Then you can decide what to do with them. You know what? Megan suddenly said, looking around the apartment. Let's do a renovation here. My brother is a builder. He'll do it cheap. We'll change the wallpaper, rearrange the furniture. Exactly, Sophie picked up, and hang new curtains and rearrange the furniture. It will be a completely different mood. Amanda felt tears welling up in her eyes. Thank you, you're doing so much for me. Now, no crying. Megan put an arm around her shoulders. We're friends now, and friends should help each other. Helen Victor looked out from the kitchen. I was looking around. Amanda, your second room is empty. Maybe I should move in with you, at least for the first while. Mom, what about your apartment? What about the apartment? I'll rent it out for now. At least I'll be calm knowing you're not alone. By evening, the apartment was transformed. All traces of Christopher's presence had disappeared. His things, photos, even the smell of his cigarettes had aired out. Sophie and Megan helped move the furniture, creating a completely new layout. And her mother quickly settled into the kitchen and cooked dinner. Tomorrow morning we go to the aid center, Sophie reminded. The lawyer is expecting us at 10. Then we'll stop by the hardware store, choose wallpaper and paint. And in the evening I made an appointment with the psychologist. She can see you. Amanda sat in her favorite armchair, wrapped in a blanket, and looked out the window. Outside, snow was falling, just like 2 days ago when her life took a sharp turn. But now this snow didn't seem hostile. It seemed to cover the past with a white blanket, giving her a chance to start with a clean slate. Her phone chimed, a message from Megan. I was thinking, I need an assistant at my pastry shop. If you want to change jobs, come by. I'll teach you everything I know. Then Sophie wrote, and my friend owns a fitness center. She says physical activity is the best therapy. I've already reserved a membership for you. And then her mother called. Sweetheart, I'll stop by early tomorrow morning. Bring your favorite cheese pancakes for breakfast. Amanda smiled. She once read that the worst thing in life is loneliness. But now, having survived the worst days of her life, she understood. Only the woman who is afraid to ask for help is alone. You just have to take the first step, and people ready to support you will definitely appear. The doorbell rang. On the doorstep stood the neighbor from downstairs, Grandma Nora, with whom they always exchanged pleasantries but weren't close. I baked some pies. She handed over a plate wrapped in a towel, with cabbage, the way you like them. And one more thing. If that monster shows up, you scream, my son lives in the next building. He'll come running quickly. Thank you, Grandma Nor. Amanda pressed the warm plate to her chest. Hang in there, girl. The old woman patted her hand. Everything will be all right. The main thing is not to be afraid to live on. The following weeks flew by in a whirlwind. Every day was scheduled by the minute. Meetings with lawyers, statements to the investigator, consultations with the psychologist, choosing materials for the renovation. Life seemed to spin in a whirlwind of change, leaving no time for sad thoughts. They started the renovation with the kitchen. Megan's brother Peter turned out to be a real professional. He didn't just change wallpaper and paint walls, he completely transformed the space. The old kitchen set, which she and Christopher had once assembled with their own hands, gave way to a new, light and modern one. Heavy curtains were replaced with light Roman blinds. The main thing is to remove everything that reminds you of the past, the psychologist said during their sessions. Create a new atmosphere around yourself, your personal space. Amanda followed this advice. She bought new bedding in a soft lavender color instead of the dark blue Christopher liked. She hung landscape paintings on the walls, placed flower pots on the windowsills. She even reupholstered the old armchair in a bright fabric. Helen Victor, who had moved in with her daughter, actively participated in the changes. She brought over an antique chest of drawers from her apartment that had been her grandmother's. Look how perfectly it fits in your bedroom. And there's more storage space. Sophie regularly called with news about Christopher's case. The news was disheartening. For him, traces of cocaine were found in his blood, drugs were found in the apartment, and a check at work revealed serious financial violations. He's completely lost it, Sophie reported. Dan says they moved him to a separate cell. He doesn't get along with other inmates, demands to meet with you, threatens that he'll still get to you. He won't get to you, Megan said firmly, placing a cup of cocoa in front of Amanda. They were sitting in her pastry shop after closing, discussing the day's events. You have so many protectors now, he can't get near you. It was true. Besides the precinct officer who regularly checked on her and the investigator who kept her informed, Amanda had a whole support network. Grandma Nora from the first floor called at her door every morning, bringing fresh pies or pancakes. Her son, a sturdy middle-aged man, installed additional security cameras in the hallway. Neighbors who had previously passed by indifferently now greeted her, asked how she was, offered help. Even the gloomy neighbor from the third floor, whom everyone considered unsociable, once stopped Amanda. I'm a welder. If you need bars on the windows, just ask. I'll do it at cost. At the Women's Aid Center, Amanda met other victims of domestic violence. Their stories were different but similar in the main point. They had all found the strength to break free from toxic relationships and start new lives. You know what's the hardest part? Natalie, a young woman with a haunted look, told her. Not the leaving itself, that can be planned. The hardest part is to believe that you deserve better, that you have the right to a normal life. Gradually, Amanda began to notice how not only her surroundings were changing, but she herself was too. The habit of flinching at loud sounds disappeared, her back straightened from constant tension, a sparkle appeared in her eyes. At work, she was promoted to senior manager. It turned out her boss had long wanted to offer her the position, but saw the state of depression she was in. On weekends, she helped Megan at the pastry shop. At first, she just learned the basics: kneading dough, whipping cream, decorating pastries. But gradually she got involved and discovered that the process of creating desserts had a therapeutic effect on her. "You have a talent," Megan said, watching Amanda decorate her first independently baked cake. "Such a sense of taste and style. Maybe you'll become my apprentice? I've been wanting to expand the business for a long time." Sophie also didn't leave her friend without attention. She dragged her to the fitness center and introduced her to a trainer. "You need to restore your energy, regain your confidence, and sport is the best helper for that." And indeed, after workouts, Amanda felt stronger not only physically, but also morally. Every set with weights, every run on the treadmill seemed to say, "You are capable of more than you think." Helen Victor, watching her daughter's transformation, just shook her head. "If only I had known how it would all turn out. Remember I told you about a prenup before the wedding? You were offended then, said, 'What kind of contracts can there be when there's love?' Mom, don't start." Amanda hugged her mother. "You were right, of course, but maybe it's all for the best. I would never have known how many wonderful people are around, ready to help. I wouldn't have understood how strong I really am." One evening, as she and her mother were drinking tea in the renovated kitchen, the phone rang. It was the investigator. "Amanda, I have news. Christopher has agreed to a plea deal, pleaded fully guilty, expressed remorse, and asks for a mitigated sentence." "And what now?" "Considering all the circumstances, attempted murder, drugs, resisting arrest, he's facing 3 to 5 years. With the guilty plea, maybe he'll get closer to the minimum. But that's not all." The investigator paused. "He asks to pass on a letter to you, says he wants to apologize. It's up to you to read it or not." Amanda closed her eyes. A month ago, she probably would have agreed, out of pity, out of remnants of old feelings. But now, "No," she said firmly, "no letters needed. It's all in the past." "I thought so." Approval was heard in the investigator's voice. "The right decision. I've seen many such stories. The main thing is not to look back." After the conversation, Amanda stood by the window for a long time, looking at the snow-covered yard. Somewhere out there, a month ago, her path to a new life began. A terrible path, through pain and despair, but necessary. "What are you thinking about?" Her mother came up from behind and hugged her shoulders. "About how strangely life works." Amanda smiled. "Sometimes you have to go through the worst to find the strength to start all over again, to understand who you really are." At that moment, the doorbell rang. Sophie and Megan had arrived, loaded with bags of groceries. "We brought dinner," Megan announced, "and news. Remember, I talked about expanding the business? Well, I found a space for a second pastry shop. And guess where? Right in your neighborhood." "And I have news," Sophie chimed in. "Remember Natalie from the support group? She decided to create a mutual aid community for women in crisis. She suggests you become one of the coordinators." Amanda looked at these women, her mother, her friends who had become almost sisters. Each of them had contributed to her salvation. Each had helped her believe in herself. "You know what?" she said, taking festive glasses from the cupboard. "Let's drink to a new life, to finding light even in the darkest night, and to help coming when you're ready to accept it." The day of the trial approached inexorably. Amanda prepared for it with the help of the psychologist and the lawyer from the aid center. Angela Mitchell, their head lawyer, spent long hours with her, preparing her for possible questions and cross-examinations. "The main thing is to speak calmly and to the point," she instructed. "No emotions, just facts. And don't look at him. Focus on the judge." The night before the hearing, Amanda hardly slept. She tossed and turned in bed, going over the events of that terrible night in her memory. Everything that had happened now seemed unreal, as if it had happened not to her, but to someone else. In the morning, a surprise awaited her in the kitchen. Helen Victor had prepared a festive breakfast. "Mom, what's the occasion?" Amanda was surprised. "Today your new life begins." Her mother set a plate of pancakes in front of her. "After the trial, all this will remain in the past forever." At the courthouse, they were already expected. Sophie and Megan, both dressed up and serious, lawyer Angela Mitchell with a folder of documents, investigator Andrews. Even Grandma Nora had come in her best dress with an icon in her purse. "We're all with you," Megan whispered, hugging her friend tightly. Christopher was brought in under guard. He had lost weight, looked haggard, but behaved defiantly. Seeing Amanda's support group, he smirked. His lawyer, no longer that confused public defender, but a sleek man in an expensive suit, was quickly writing something in a notebook. "All rise." "The court is in session," came the command, and the judge entered the room. A middle-aged woman with an attentive gaze. The hearing began with the reading of the charges. The long list of articles was impressive. Attempted murder, infliction of grievous bodily harm, possession of narcotics, resisting arrest. The first to be questioned was the investigator. Andrews spoke clearly and to the point, outlining the chronology of events. After him, witnesses spoke. The bartender from the dive bar, the security guard, neighbors who saw Christopher forcibly dragging Amanda into the car. Then it was her turn. Getting up to the witness stand, Amanda felt her knees trembling. But as soon as she started speaking, the anxiety receded. She told her story calmly and in detail, not missing a single important detail. "Tell me, did the defendant threaten you with violence?" the judge asked. "Yes." For the first time, Amanda raised her eyes to Christopher. "He yelled that he would get to me, that I would regret it. And now tell us what happened on the highway." Amanda took a deep breath and began to tell about that terrible night, about the cold that pierced to the bone, about the darkness and loneliness, about the cars passing by, about how she gradually lost feeling in her legs. Absolute silence hung in the courtroom. Even Christopher stopped smirking and sat with his head down. When she finished, the judge asked a few more questions, then nodded. "That's enough. You may sit down." Christopher's lawyer tried to build a defense on the fact that his client acted in a state of strong emotional distress, provoked by the news of the divorce, but his arguments shattered against the iron logic of the prosecution and the witness's testimony. "Does the defendant wish to make a final statement?" the judge asked. Christopher stood up. His self-confidence had vanished. A lost man with a shifty gaze stood before the court. I apologize," he began in a hoarse voice. "I didn't mean to. I didn't think it would turn out like this. Amanda, I really did love you." "Address the court, not the victim," the judge interrupted sternly. After deliberation, the court delivered the verdict. 4 years in a general regime colony, plus compensation for moral damages and a prohibition against approaching Amanda after release. As Christopher was being led away, he tried to catch his ex-wife's eye, but Amanda looked out the window where a light spring snow was falling, so unlike that January snow that had almost been her last. After the hearing, everyone went to Megan's pastry shop to celebrate the beginning of a new life. Sophie made a toast. To freedom, to courage, and to no woman ever being afraid to start over again. Amanda looked around at those gathered, her mother clutching her purse with documents to her chest. Sophie, who had fiercely defended her all these months. Megan, who had become not just a friend, but practically a sister. Grandma Nora with her endless pies and care. Each of these people had played their role in her salvation. "You know," she said, raising a glass of champagne, "I recently realized one important thing. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find your true self and your true loved ones." In the evening, returning home, Amanda stood for a long time by the window in her renovated apartment. Over these months, everything had changed. The walls, the furniture, the curtains. But the main thing was that she herself had changed. Her phone chimed with a message. It was Natalie from the support group. "Saw the news about the sentence. You're great. By the way, about our mutual aid project. Tomorrow is the first organizational meeting. Will you come?" Amanda smiled. She once thought her life was over, but it turned out it was just beginning. "Of course I'll come," she replied. "I already have a few ideas." The doorbell rang. Megan had brought sketches of the sign for the new pastry shop. "Look, how do you like this option? We are partners now, after all." Indeed, a week ago they had signed a partnership agreement for the business. Amanda invested money from the sale of jewelry given to her by Christopher. She didn't want to keep anything that reminded her of the past. "Great sign. She spread the sketches on the table. Just let's add here. They stayed up late discussing the details of the future business. And when Megan left, Amanda took out her diary. The psychologist had advised keeping notes to track her progress. Today my old life ended, she wrote, but I feel neither bitterness nor regret. Only gratitude for the lesson, for the test, for the people who helped me endure. And you know what? I am finally free, truly free. A year passed. Snow again blanketed the city in white, but now it brought Amanda peace, not fear. She stood by the large window of her pastry shop, Sweet Happiness, watching the hurried passers-by and thinking about how amazingly her life had changed in these 12 months. Her and Megan's business was thriving. The second pastry shop, opened 6 months ago, already had regular customers and excellent reviews. Amanda turned out to be a talented pastry chef. Her signature desserts were in special demand, and most importantly, she finally felt she was in her place. "Chef, the bride is here." Lisa, her young assistant, peeked into the office. "About the wedding cake." "Coming," Amanda smiled, adjusting her snow-white apron with the embroidered logo. A beautiful girl with a catalogue of wedding cakes was waiting in the hall. An older woman, probably her mother, sat nearby. "Hello, I'm Amanda, the head pastry chef." She sat down next to the clients. "Tell me, what kind of cake do you envision for your wedding?" While the bride shared her wishes, Sophie came into the pastry shop. She often stopped by on her way from work now. "I have news," she announced when Amanda was free. "Remember that lawyer who defended Christopher? He was caught taking a bribe and forging documents. Now he's facing time himself." "What about Christopher?" Amanda asked, more out of politeness than interest. "In the colony, they say he's quieted down completely. Even signed up for a rehabilitation program. But that doesn't matter to you anymore, right?" Amanda nodded. Christopher had truly become part of the past, distant and unreal, like an old forgotten dream. Sometimes she even wondered, was it really her, now so strong and independent, who could have endured humiliation and fear for years? The bell above the door jingled. Megan came in with a huge folder of sketches. "Girls, I came up with a design for our third location. Can you believe it? We were offered a spot in the new shopping mall." After work, they gathered, as tradition dictated, at Amanda's apartment. Over the past year, everything here had changed beyond recognition. The last traces of Christopher's presence had disappeared. She had even put the old photos away in a far drawer. Now it was a cozy space, filled with light, flowers, and the aromas of fresh baking. Helen Victor, who had fully settled into the role of homemaker, set the table. "Girls, I baked a pie using your recipe, Amanda dear. Not as pretty, though." "But made with love," Megan smiled, pouring tea. Sophie took a folder out of her bag. "And I have documents from the aid center for you. Can you believe over 50 women have gone through our support program this year? And your story gave many of them strength." Indeed, after that case, Amanda became an active participant in the program to help women affected by domestic violence. Once a week, she held support group meetings, shared her experience, and helped others believe in themselves. "You know what Natalie said yesterday?" Sophie continued, "that if it weren't for your example, she would never have dared to leave her husband. And now she has her own business, a new apartment." The doorbell rang. Grandma Nora came with her signature pies. "Girls, I was thinking maybe we could sell my pies in your pastry shop too. My pension is small, but my hands still work." "Of course, Grandma Nor," Amanda was delighted. "We actually have an idea to open a section for homemade baked goods." The evening flew by in conversations and plans for the future. When the guests had left, Amanda sat down with her diary. She continued to keep it now not as therapy, but as a chronicle of her new life. "A year ago, I thought my life was over," she wrote. "That terrible night on the snowy highway seemed like the end of everything. But it turned out to be the beginning of the path to my true self." The phone rang. Peter's name appeared on the screen. Megan's brother. After the renovation, they sometimes met. At first, just as acquaintances, then they started going to movies, walking around the city. "Hi." His voice sounded warm and reliable. "How was your day?" "Wonderful." Amanda smiled. "You know, I was thinking, maybe we could go to that new Italian restaurant tomorrow." "With pleasure. I'll pick you up at 7." Hanging up, Amanda went to the window. Snow was still swirling in the light of the streetlights, but now it was a completely different snow. Snow of new beginnings, hopes, and possibilities. On the table lay a glossy magazine with her photo on the spread. She had recently given a big interview about her journey from a victim of domestic violence to a successful businesswoman. "It's never too late to start over," the headline of the article read. Her phone signaled again. A message came into the group chat of their support center. A new participant wrote, "I read your story in the magazine. Maybe I can do it too." "You definitely can," Amanda replied. "The main thing is to take the first step." She sat down at the table and began sketching out a plan for tomorrow's support group meeting. Now she knew exactly what to say to these women frozen on the threshold of change, that sometimes the most terrible event in life can become a turning point, that any chains can be broken if you find the courage to believe in your own strength. And she also wanted to tell them how important it is not to remain alone, that true friends are known not in joy but in trouble, about Sophie and Megan, who saved her that frosty night, about her mother who didn't leave her in a difficult moment, about Grandma Nora with her endless pies and care, about all those people who extended a helping hand when she needed it most. At night, she had an amazing dream. She was standing on that snowy highway again, but now there was no darkness or fear around. The sun was shining brightly, and the road led to the horizon where something beautiful and bright awaited her. And she knew for sure this was not the end of the path, but only the beginning of a new, real life. In the morning, opening her pastry shop, Amanda caught her reflection in the window. A beautiful, confident woman in a snow-white apron with the Sweet Happiness logo looked back at her from the mirrored surface. A woman who not only survived, but also learned to live again, who found the strength not only to get up, but also to help others get up. "Good morning," she smiled at her reflection. "To the start of a new day." And it really was a beginning. The beginning of another beautiful day in her new free life.